What is going down, Sourdough Squad and the Spicy Squad? We are back. You know what day it is? It's Wednesday. So that means it's the state of the franchise where Jason Aponte and me, Brad Graham, come together to discuss where the 49ers are at. And we're going to get into it all right after this. It's also Raiders week, Jason. Let's get it. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.
Hardest intro in the game. Don't at me. Don't at me.
Dude, that intro is never going to get old. That thing is straight heat. Just like the San Francisco 49ers cooking the Washington Commanders on Christmas Eve. Tell me a little bit about what your Christmas Eve was looking like that day when the 49ers took the Commanders to the woodshed.
I was singing my favorite song, Left Hand Up, who are we? The Commanders. Haters can't stand us. That song sucks, by the way. In the beginning, the game was a bit of a dogfight, and this is what I really enjoyed about this game more than anything is fourth-ranked defense, and Brock Purdy gets another test. In the beginning of the game, halfway through, it kind of looked like a bit of a struggle. Like, Brock Purdy was 4 for 9, and the only touchdown was the Ray McCloud touchdown. For them to go make their adjustments, second half, Brock Purdy to literally put up all his numbers in the second half for the 49ers. Remember earlier in the season, where's this offense? Well, it is close. It is close to turning the corner. Well, they did 30 points in the second half would have been incredibly hard to imagine.
Or we'd always talk about how they start out hot, right? And then they fizzle in the second half.
Right. And it's the other way around. Kyle made his adjustments. Brock was throwing the ball all over the field. This is another game where I love it because the circumstances weren't just, the 49ers destroyed them from the outset, right? There was a little adversity. You want to see that because that's what's going to happen in the postseason. There's going to be stretches where you are facing better defenses. They are going to be able to hold you down for a bit. How do you respond? And I think that's the best way that I could come away with this one. In the second half, the 49ers responded.
And again, we got to give credit where credit's due. That defense is pretty damn good. Like, I came away just really impressed with the safety play that they had. I mean, they have some young safeties that aren't brand names yet, but they have some good talent. Of course, the defensive line with Chase Young coming back. It was definitely a big test for the 49ers. With Brock Purdy in the offense versus this defense. And like you said, it wasn't all hot and spicy right out the gate. It took a little bit of time, but the defense did what the defense does and keeps them in games. And, man, Nick Bosa, got to be Defensive Player of the Year, right? Like, is it even a question? Or are we already just wrapping it up and giving it to him?
It's done. Make sure you get it to that man. Matter of fact, mail it to him now. Defensive Player of the Week for the fourth time in his career, the most by any 49ers defensive lineman in history. And his odds from DraftKings Sportsbook are minus 1,100. If you guys know anything about gambling, if you want to make money on that bet, you've got to spend money to make money on that bet. And Micah Parsons being plus 650 in his last 3 weeks in his performances, with Nick Bosa having 2 sacks, forced fumble, a bunch of tackles for loss, a sack on a 2-point conversion that doesn't necessarily count. It just counts as a stop. Nick Bosa's got this thing wrapped up, and now he gets to tee off on Jarrett Stidham.
And it was funny because you talked about the betting line for Nick Bosa to be Defensive Player of the Year. The betting line came out earlier today that I think the 49ers, I'm not a big gambler, so I don't really know a ton about how this stuff works, so you can enlighten me. But I think the number jumped like 3 points in the direction of the San Francisco 49ers before the news was announced. And everyone's like, oh, this got to be quarterback news, news. What do you make of the Raiders benching Derek Carr ahead of the San Francisco 49ers game with 2 games left in the season?
Everybody get your jokes off and say that the Raiders are scared, but I think the Raiders, this is the end of the Derek Carr era. And this is how it goes out because they are trying to stop him from being injured before being on the hook for his $33 million deal that he signed. So this is how the Derek Carr era with the Raiders ends. Probably will be the next quarterback for the Commanders next year. The Indianapolis Colts will probably be on the phone because they always go for somebody new every year. But this is literally them trying to insulate themselves so they don't have to wind up being stuck to Derek Carr again. And it's just a business decision at the end of the day. Now, the line should have been your first, look at it, right? Like it was the same thing. If you notice what happened with Jalen Hurts, it was the same thing. In that game, that line was moving in a different direction. And you're like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is injured. So Vegas always knows. And I mean, it doesn't help that the Raiders play in Vegas, right? Vegas always knows. So when it moves that way, it's usually a telling sign that there's going to be either one big injury, multiple injuries, but it was the idea that Derek Carr is not going to be there. So this is how the Derek Carr era ends with the Raiders, and he's going to be shopping for a new team next year.
Yeah, it's wild. I like Derek coming out of Fresno State. One of the things that I keep into mind when I'm, going through our scouting process, Mobile's coming up, Jason, and I'm sure the whole squad's going to be out there.
I've been refreshing my email every.
You're waiting. Like, where's my credential at?
Where is it? Where is it? Like I was looking through my IG stories the other day, and it said a year ago credential, and I looked. I was like, "Oh, today's the day." Molly, if you're watching, please send the credentials. I need to book this.
We need to get our plans in order because we need to figure out, hey, if we're going to Super Bowl or we're going to Senior Bowl.
We might be leaving from the Senior Bowl straight to the Super Bowl. So let's make some money. Let's do it.
We're hoping for an extremely busy January. That's what you and I are hoping for. But with, one of the tales that I have is like, you got to pay, like you can love a player, right? But you got to pay attention to what organization they go to. Derek Carr was doomed the second he got drafted by the Raiders. It's just he's had 6 head coaches and however many years. It's just a revolving door of trash with the Raiders. And so part of me feels a little bad, but then the other part feels not bad at all because I don't like the Raiders. And I'm looking forward to Jarrett Stidham, former backup. He didn't back up Garoppolo. He backed up Brady while he was with the Patriots, right? I think it was
both. I think it was I mean, he was Patriots guy. Yeah, Patriots guy. He went over and he followed McDaniels. And also, don't cry for Derek Carr. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars. He'll
Derek will cry for himself. You don't got to shed a tear for him.
I think he'll
take care of it.
He'll land on his feet somewhere. Someone will give him another contract. It'll be all right.
Yeah, but overall, I agree with your assessment as well. Like this move was made because they're not going to be on the hook for all that guaranteed money in case he gets injured. It's the era is over. And I think the last pass that he had with the Raiders was an interception. So just what a wild ride for Derek Carr. It's obviously going to be a new team on the horizon. They've already talked about trading them, but we don't got to talk about that. We'll get to the Raiders too, because it is Raiders week and it's one of the best weeks of the year. And we only get it every 4 years.
That's a big thing for you guys. And I'm going to
hell yes.
That whole Battle of the Bay thing is for 49ers fans in that area. I know all about I've heard. I don't know all about. I've heard you go to the black hole, you're probably going to fight. There's this whole thing between, the two. For me, on the East Coast, the Raiders are just the Raiders. Like I really don't give a shit, but I understand. I want to partake. I want to partake in it. I do. I want to partake in it. I do. I want to oh God, I hate them. I can't hate a team that has never done anything. I can't hate a team that I never feared, never stopped me from doing anything. But I understand the locational rivalry, and I understand why this is such a big deal.
Yeah, some of my best friends are Raider fans. So being out here in the Bay, it's the trash talking just never ends. Like it's just always going to go somehow going to get brought up into a conversation that has nothing to do with football. It's going to somehow be tied to being a Raider fan or a Niner fan or something like that. So the rivalry isn't what it used to be, sadly enough, because of course the Raiders got, they couldn't handle being the little brother to the 49ers. So they moved away to Las Vegas, and that's okay. But it's still a fun rivalry nonetheless for how many years they were in the Bay. And I think it's going to be a good, I don't want to say good matchup, but I think it's a good situation for the 49ers walking into this, right?
It's a great situation because I've got the Packers beating Vikings, the Vikings on Sunday, which puts the 49ers
what
in prime position.
happens?
Number two slot. You get that number 2 seed. I think that this is all lining up. Sometimes this is the part. Remember when there's a few victory laps I want to take real quick, Graham. Both of us, we should, right? Mm-hmm. Remember early in the year about, well, it's week 4. What will this team do in the playoffs? How far do you see them going? And what did we say? Well, let's just slow down and let's wait to see what happens at the end of the year. Teams that are world beaters fall off. Teams start to expose themselves. You find out more when you gain more information. Well, looky. Here we are. The Philadelphia Eagles have an injury at quarterback. Lane Johnson's injured. They have defensive guys that are injured, right? The Minnesota Vikings, I don't think scare anybody at this point. The Green Bay Packers are coming to beat them this Sunday, right? The Dallas Cowboys have turned over a fraudulent leaf that they usually do. They've given up 110 points over 3 weeks, 2 against offenses that they shouldn't be doing that with. And now look at the 49ers. On top of people's number 1 power rankings and rolling and getting healthy, this is why you never worry about those things and why we say we will revisit this discussion when we get to the end of the year. All those people that panicked about, well, this team in week 5, they're not going to beat anybody. They're not going to do this. You have almost 13 more weeks to figure all that stuff out, and other teams are going to fall by the wayside. So here we are. The Vikings are fraudulent. The Packers are going to beat them. The 49ers have a chance to get into the 2nd seed. And all that panicking for what? All that panicking for what? And it might have sounded like across that bridge when you get there, hey, I'm putting the answer off. But the smart thing to do is to continue to gather information as you do, because now we have a large sample of information as opposed to, 4 weeks. I don't think this team can do it. Good thing the playoffs don't start in week 5. Sorry, Brad. I had to get that off my chest. I've been holding on to that.
No, it's 2 years in a row. We've had the fire Kyle Shanahan crowd doused 2 consecutive years in a row, and they have no legs to stand on anymore. We've taken both the legs out. So let's say next year rolls around and they start out 3-4. You would just be silly at this point to utter those words. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going anywhere for a long time. Like what would that do? It wouldn't do anything. Now, when that period of time was going on, was there frustration? Was there some execution errors and plays that weren't going properly? Yeah, of course. And we talked about it. We talked about some of the frustrations. That week 7 game against the Chiefs, we had former 49ers players. We had all these people just talking about, like, what did we just watch? Like, what was that? Go back to week 3 against the Broncos. You look at that loss now, and it's just like continuing to look worse and worse as the weeks go by, because the Broncos are a dumpster fire. They fired Nathaniel Hackett this week. They fired a bunch of other staff. The Russell Wilson trade has not worked out up until this point.
Patrick Starr fried him.
Right?
Did you see that? I can't believe that on a Nickelodeon game, man. You've hit a low point. You've hit a low point in your career when Patrick Starr fries you on the Nickelodeon broadcast. That was excellent.
It was so perfect. But again, it's like that's the whole reason why you and I, who do this every Wednesday, said we'll give a more definitive opinion on the 49ers after the bye. And right around then, guess what? San Francisco 49ers got back on track, and they have not lost since that point. So the 49ers season isn't over either. And I think you alluded to it perfectly, right? Because, yeah, it's the Raiders. Yeah, the Cardinals are the next week. Both teams are eliminated from playoff contention. The 49ers aren't. They're trying to get some seeding taken care of, and there's an opportunity to grab the 2nd seed. And if the football gods are absolutely on our side, which it's at least positioned to be possible with the Jalen Hurts injury,
3% right now. Yeah.
Right. But we've seen crazier things happen. We've seen games that have been decided by 99.9%. There's no way this team's coming back, and we've seen teams come back. So same goes for playoff. Like, anything can happen any given Sunday, right? So there's still a lot to play for this week. Like, and Nick Bosa trying to break the franchise sack record set by Aldon Smith at 19.5. He's at 17.5. 2 more sacks. He ties that thing up, and we're seeing Nick Bosa stack up multiple sack games in the last couple weeks. He got one against Seattle, but he's been stacking them up. So there's still a lot to play for, right?
Yeah, and also, one of the biggest things that I came away with in this game, Javon Kinlaw was healthy, and he played only 16 snaps, and Kyle Shanahan spoke to the fact that Kinlaw said he wanted to keep playing. Obviously, he feels good. That's just another weapon to add. Kerry Hyder's going to be on his way back. Kevin Givens is going to be on his way back for the postseason. Like, this team is potentially getting stronger. One thing I do want to see get fixed, and I want to get your take on this. I need the secondary to step it up. I need them to step it up just a little bit more. Not Mooney Ward, everyone else. Jimmy Ward's been good. Lenoir's been solid. Jimmy Ward's been great. Forget that. Forget good. Mm-hmm. Lenoir's been solid. Far too many touchdowns in the secondary. Far too many. And Brad, if I had to ask you as an offensive coordinator, you're going to face the 49ers. Are you trying to beat them at the first level defensive line, the linebacker crew, or are you going to take your shots at the secondary?
That's probably going secondary all day. You're abandoning your run game pretty quickly. I mean, you got to do it to stay honest, but you're not going to really get anything on the ground, right?
That's got to get cleaned up. That's got to get. This is the best defense right now in the league, and they are lights out. But there's far too many times where people are moving up and the ball's going over their head, not being disciplined, either being overly aggressive. What this team needs to do is just play within themselves. Now, I know what part of this secondary is, and it makes them special, is being opportunistic, and you like that. But with the opportunities that you get and you cause with turnovers comes the bust. So I want to point to Trevon Diggs last year. Trevon Diggs is intercepting almost everything, but he's also giving up the most amount of yards. So what is the trade-off? What's the trade-off? Are you cool with the yards because of the interceptions? Can those things lead to games that you can lose? That's the give and take. Now, you can overlook one thing if you have something that's overwhelming, but having our two safeties be graded 88th and 89th in the NFL these last few weeks, that's not good.
They are?
Yes, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good. It's not good. 5 touchdowns over the head over 29. Like, Hufanga, you talked about it, dude. I can't take the cheese. I got to be lactose intolerant. Stop taking the cheese. Stop. Okay? And better teams that are going to be able to pass the ball are going to exploit that more and more. It's not Washington. I saw Terry McLaurin almost catch a touchdown. Good job, Terry. Way to go, buddy. I was so happy for you. But, we have to find a way to clean this up. That's it.
Well, and that game started out pretty interestingly because, again, I talk about the football gods all the time. I think we got a little help from the football gods. Jahan Dotson, what did he drop? Opening drive touchdown that, if he gets that thing, he's gone. And Jahan Dotson is clearly proving to be a force as a rookie in this league. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a really good player. But there were a couple things, right, that we got a little lucky on a couple things, even in the secondary, like dropping that pass. That would have been a long touchdown right out the gate and would have put the team behind at a disadvantage. It turned into like a 14-point swing, essentially, at that point. But yeah, no, I hear you. I haven't really been studying the defense. I'll be perfectly honest with that. I'm pretty locked in on the O right now. So I can't give you a ton of analysis on the defensive backs outside of what I've seen on the broadcast. But I do see that as well. Like, you can see that there are some opportunities being given up by the defensive backs. And, Charvarius Ward, Tashawn Gibson, Talanoa Hufanga, Deommodore Lenoir, and Jimmy Ward, they got a big task to uphold, right? Because we know the linebackers, they're playing lights out. They're doing their job. They're taking away everything underneath. And so right now we're seeing opposing offenses attack over the top, and they are winning with some success, right?
Yeah, they are. But that's the thing, is these reps are valuable to clean these things up, right? Like, you're going to be facing, in the postseason, better offenses. So you still have time. And again, how can you really complain when your team only gives up 20 points? How can you really complain when your team only really gives up 17 points? I'm just saying that it's something that if I'm noticing, if you're noticing, offensive coordinators are noticing. And that's certain things that you can do, whether it's double moves or hitting that cover 2 shot in between the safety and the corner. If you're not disciplined, and it doesn't even require anything. This is the best part. This is the best news. It doesn't require anything drastic. Just more discipline. Just
kind of playing your keys, right?
Just play your keys. Hufanga talked about it on the Sherman podcast, said the same exact thing. He said, I've got to stop taking the cheese. He understands I'm being overly aggressive. It's not a big overhaul. It's not a big change. It's not even something for panic. But it is something that I've noticed. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about it. Also, we got a super chat coming in from 49ers Throwback. Says, hey, Brad and Jason, the O-line played very well against the Commanders D-line. I like to play where Brunskill block 2 guys. Appreciate your show. What are your thoughts on the offensive line the last couple weeks?
I want you to cook because I'm gonna tee this one up for you. I'm gonna tee this one up for you. Hey, all Brad, right. First time caller, long time listener. My name is Jason. What is your assessment on Mike McGlinchey these past few weeks? Because it does seem like Mike McGlinchey, aside from the false starts, has been playing very well, blocking people. Your thoughts?
I mean, he's been fantastic, but the only thing people are going to talk about are the penalties. They're going to talk about the laundry, and that's how they assess and I basically evaluate offensive line. So again, the offensive line conversation and discourse continues to be absolutely just disgusting at this point. But I'm happy to report that Mike McGlinchey has played fantastically 3 weeks in a row. We've got 3 phenomenal games in a row from Mike McGlinchey. Who would have thought, Jason? Who would have thought Mike McGlinchey with some broken ribs is out here cooking?
On top of that, can I ask a second question?
Yes, please.
Has Mike McGlinchey played himself into another contract with the San Francisco 49ers, Bradley?
Oh, man, dude. People are going to be so upset.
They're
going to be so mad when they re-sign.
Say it.
It's going to happen. They're going to bring that guy back. And you better be prepared for it. They love him inside that building. I want to make that abundantly clear. Y'all may hate him outside the building, but inside the building, they love that guy. And there's a lot of reasons why. And he just, again, offensive line is a hard position to evaluate. There's a lot of nuance and it's a lot of tight area to try to pick that stuff apart. So I can understand, some of the disconnect between the, public discourse versus actually going back and watching it. But you get into it, Mike has had 3 really good games. And again, the penalties aside, which were bad penalties, you don't want those. Let's face it, there were poorly timed penalties in the red zone area. Lightweight stalled the drives out. Not good, right? Those are things that you're going to try to get rid of. But if you evaluate the entire body of work and the actual plays that are being made, you look at that Ray McLeod touchdown. It is not happening without Mike McGlinchey absolutely bodying the linebacker and then washing out 3 other Washington defenders as a result. And of course, you had other good. Everyone was blocking phenomenally on that play. But yeah, I'd say it's safe to say, if you don't like Mike McGlinchey, I'm not going to, talk about that, but just be prepared because I do see a world that exists where Mike McGlinchey is back on this team this coming year and for future years.
I just think, and I think we said it on the last show, I think what you're seeing now is how much quarterback play and offensive line play are kind of hand in hand. Meaning, oh my goodness, if the ball's out on time and the quarterback has some sort of pocket presence, pocket awareness, and they're able to either slide away from something like that, or if they're able to get the ball out on time and not have your guy on the island for too long, it's funny how the stat sheet comes out a little bit cleaner. And I'm not trying to blame anybody for whatever it is that happened with Mike McGlinchey. And I think Brad's right. If you've got your mindset on Mike McGlinchey, if you got your mind made up, these last 3 games are not going to change your mind. And I don't think that there is going to be any sort of performance that will change your mind. The problem with O-line is that it's the most thankless job. No one pulls up the blocks where you're dropping people. They only pull up the false starts. They only pull on the times when you miss, even if they don't necessarily know why it was missed. Was it a miscommunication? Was it something that just happens one-on-one?
I've seen Mike McGlinchey get cooked for something that wasn't his fault.
Right. And it's hard to explain that part.
Destroyed. And they're like,
'Cause
oh, no, it's his fault. You're like, no, it's not his fault.
It's hard to explain the nuances and little stuff with that, especially when you don't know what the protection was called, what the responsibilities are, all those things. That's the hard part. And I'm not trying to like talk down on 49 fans. I'm not. I am just trying to say that like his last 3 games, he has been great. But these games aren't going to be enough to change your mind. Like whatever your mind is made up on McGlinchey, that's where you're at this point. And you have your reasons. I respect it. That's fine. But
fine.
yeah, O-line is just a thankless job. Not everybody is Trent Williams. Again,
Right.
a lot of the quarterback stuff, who's playing quarterback, getting the ball out on time, has to do with the offensive line. So, yeah, I mean, it's okay to say that he's been playing well. And I don't expect you guys to just, like, all of a sudden just say, you know what, man, we were completely wrong, like, about him. So I think that's fair.
I think that's a good thing, a good way to put it. Like, even as someone who clearly studies the offensive line and watches every play of Mike McGlinchey, I can totally understand how if you're just watching the broadcast and you're just seeing the penalties and you're just seeing the bad plays, how you can have a bad opinion of Mike. And so I'm not saying like you're wrong for that opinion. I understand it. Offensive line is a hard position to evaluate. So I get it. And it's like you get narratives like this, Mike getting used to the help on the side. He doesn't get help on the side. I don't know why there's this narrative that he's getting chips constantly and they're keeping guys in for Mike. It's not accurate. But
it'll be George Kittle. George Kittle will have like 6 pass blocks in a game, and it'll be like, well, he was in blocking the whole time. I'm like, wait, what?
And that would be rich. 6 would be like a lot. Like it might be 2. And they're like, oh, he's just an offensive lineman now to help Mike. And you're like, what are we talking about? But, facts are facts. Who needs those?
And I agree with what Harold just said. The 49ers have to keep drafting offensive line for depth, 100%. And that's what they've been doing. I mean, look at Aaron Banks. Look at Burford, right? Like all of these guys.
Brendel's not a spring chicken.
No, he's not. So I agree with that 100%. There's not this Mike McGlinchey being signed doesn't mean, all right tackle's solved. We're not going to keep exhausting any. The 49ers don't have a high pick. Most of their picks and the things that we're going to be looking for in Mobile when we're at the Senior Bowl are probably offensive linemen at this point. Like guys that are going to be falling in the later rounds, right? Like what are the needs? What exactly does this team need? You always need offensive line because without offensive line, it's nothing. So, yeah, absolutely, Harold. There's no way you stop going for offensive line. You can sign Mike McGlinchey to a 2-3 year deal. You still draft the right tackle. You have to exhaust all those options. And the 49ers, for a large part, have been really good at picking and choosing their offensive lines. I mean, getting Daniel Brunskill, getting what they're getting out of him. Brendel, right? Laken Tomlinson is struggling right now with the Jets. Struggling. And a lot of people wrote off Aaron Banks. Burford steps in. You still got Brunskill to spell him. This team is still built to do that. And they've still got guys behind them as well, too. So this team is always going to build in the trenches, no matter what. So they will never stop looking at offensive line, defensive line, ever.
Yeah, no, you always got to build in the trenches. And again, you look across the offensive line. Yeah, you got 2 young bucks in Burford and Banks, but Brendel is 29, 30. Trent Williams is on the opposite side of 30. So you got to keep drafting and keep evaluating those positions, and it's going to be fine. They're going to be able to keep going to the well, bringing more offensive linemen in. It's exactly what you should do, in my opinion. I don't think you should stop at that. Ryan Reed says, Jay, can we talk about Aiyuk? That man is cooking DBs. What have you seen from Brandon Aiyuk?
Breakout season, 150 yards, I believe, from 1,000. You got to get him as a 1,000-yard season.
You have to.
You think a little bit too about some of the plays that he just missed too, also, and it's like, man, it would be so much bigger. How much can we attribute it to with Deebo Samuel being out? I don't know, but what I do know is no matter what, if he's not getting the ball, he is open. That man, his route running is continuing to improve. Everything that you see, I think it was Benjamin Solak that put out his list of wide receivers. And he said, I'll admit, I was not the highest on Brandon Aiyuk. He was like, but this year is such a large jump from what he's been. And honestly, he was so good his first year. Last year, it started off, in the doghouse, whatever. And then he got out of it. But this year, you're just seeing a guy coming into his own. And you could see it in training camp. I mean, he wanted to fight Fred Warner. This guy feels like he is now a part, like one of the big dogs. Like that was the moment.
You were there for that day. Were you there for that day?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. That was the moment that I was like,
I forgot about that. That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen on a football field, in a game or on practice. It was insane.
That was the moment. That was the moment where I was like, this guy is like, this is man shit right now that he's doing. Like he is taking over this locker room. He's a leader. And you're seeing it on the field. He was the best wide receiver in camp, bar none. And he was probably the best player almost every single day on either side of the ball. Every day, Brandon Aiyuk. That's how
you remember it was Fred Warner who came up and hit Marcus Johnson.
And he jumped
Aiyuk wasn't even involved.
Nope.
He comes off the sideline and straight up, they just start freaking like, I was like, oh my God, this is
I loved it.
Pay-per-view.
That's the confidence, right? And that's what you saw in his
That
play.
dog.
But that's the guy that is now like, you know what? I'm here, and nobody's gonna move me. Not anybody on this team, not anybody on the opposition. If you got enough balls to try to fight Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, then God help who's on the other side of, for you. So yeah, he's been waiting.
Exact. Great point. You got the balls to square up with those two guys as a wide receiver who's probably down, a solid 50 pounds on those guys, if not more. Like Brandon Aiyuk has been fantastic. And again, you alluded to it, the rough stretch start that he had last year, getting through that and being able to perform the way he did towards the end of the year, and then the way he's been able to continue to carry that on this year. Brandon Aiyuk he's been a freaking dog, man. He's been an asset. Like you talk about, like might not be the most pass heavy offense or things like that, but even in this game against the Commanders, he might not have been the number one leading receiver, but he was second with 5 receptions and 81 yards, and he had that really nice big play. Oh, he had one catch against the Commanders where Brock Purdy put it on him over the middle, and he had to go up high for it and went right into a linebacker. Linebacker was there, stuck him. Freaking Brandon Aiyuk gets up, flexing. I was like, you dog, man. Like Brandon, like whatever it was, like the talent has always been there. That's never been the question. The talent is there. He is a number one wide receiver in this league. It was just like making that jump from like that ASU. He went from community college, ASU. Now you need to become a true number one wide receiver in the NFL. I think he is. I mean, even with Deebo Samuel out on the field, I look at Brandon Aiyuk as a wide receiver 1. Deebo is
offensive weapon 1.
Offensive weapon 1. Brandon Aiyuk is the wide receiver 1, and I don't think that's much of a debate, right? Would you say the same?
No, it's not much of it. The best wide receiver on this team is Brandon Aiyuk. The best offensive weapon on this team is Deebo Samuel. I don't understand why there's not a large outcry about it, or people that will push back on that. They're both necessary. They're both used in the way that they are. They're both successful with what they do. We can't get bogged down with, well, he's a wide receiver. Yes, Deebo's a wide receiver. But I would argue that Brandon Aiyuk gets open more with his own separation, with his own routes. And I would argue that when the ball's in his hands, Deebo Samuel, you don't want to bring that man down, and you can't bring him down. And they're both necessary. So I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that wide receiver 1 is Brandon Aiyuk and offensive one is Deebo Samuel. It's a beautiful problem to have.
It is a beautiful problem to have. And you could even make the argument, is CMC offensive weapon 1? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are 8-1 since he was traded for. Technically, I mean, he played in that Chiefs game, but what?
8-0 since he's been implemented. 8-0 since he's been implemented. That's what I was saying.
Haven't lost. You pulled that one out. I never pulled that one out loud. Never lost.
Yeah.
That's
never lost.
Been living rent free in my head. I thought it was such a good pull.
Well,
like, oh
and that's the thing. It was a lot of people push back on this CMC trade because of what it was. Well, we've had the discussion. I'm not interested in figuring out what 3rd round pick could be. I'm interested in what he is. Right. And the reason the 49ers have not missed a beat with Deebo Samuel out is because of Christian McCaffrey. And the offense, since he's been there fully implemented, whether it's Jimmy or Purdy, it's clear it's different. It's clear that it has another gear to it because there's this check down outlet that was never there before. So it never made sense to me, the people that were worried about 2-3 years down the line when this team made a move to go get it this year, and look at them, and you can't argue with the results right now. And look,
is there any correlation that a lot of the people that didn't like that trade didn't really like Kyle Shanahan either, and maybe did that go hand in hand?
Aha! Now, why is that? So yeah, it's absolutely true because people were saying, "Oh, this is a panic move." No, because again, I'll say this over and over: if the Rams traded for him, the people that don't like Kyle would have said, look, see, they never do anything. Well, the 49ers did something. Well, see, this is a panic move. Panic move my ass. They're 8-0. The guy has been incredible, worth every single draft pick so far. Now, we can look down further down the line. We're going to find out what this trade is really going to net when we find out what those picks turn into, when we find out how long McCaffrey is going to be around, how long he'll be effective. I think that's when we'll find a better way to grade the draft. But as of right now, who could feel bad about this draft, right? This trade right now, who could feel bad about it at this point?
I don't feel bad at all because we know the 49ers are going to have a boatload of compensatory picks coming their way. So, yeah, they don't have that second, but they're going to have a lot of thirds. So I'm really not worried about it. And again, for every hit that the 49ers have had, there's a long list of misses as well. Mm-hmm. It's a crapshoot, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and that's the thing is shoot, you gotta go for it, right? And again, they were in a no-win situation because if he goes to the Rams, oh, look at the Rams. I wish we were like the Rams because they went and they got it. They got a Super Bowl. Now they're in hell right now, but they still got their bowl. Now this 49ers trade for Christian McCaffrey doesn't put them in hell, because they still have third-round picks that are going to come along, especially D'Amico Ryans is about to leave and sign somewhere else. That's another third-round pick. And when you look at the success that the 49ers have had, third, fourth, fifth round, I'm fine with it, because you still have your premium blue-chip talent locked in, Fred, Bosa, Trent for a little while longer, Kittle, Debo, Aiyuk. You're going to have all these guys around that'll offset any sort of losses. Now, first-round picks are good. Second-round picks are great. They're great. They're not good. They're great, but they do miss. And if you go through 32, let's go through a full round of 32. What is the percentage of a 32 first rounders would you say that are guys that you could say that was a well worth it pick? That is somebody who is a franchise cornerstone.
I mean, you're probably hitting on 7%, 8% maybe, where you're like, this is a franchise guy. I mean, for every franchise guy, you have your Zach Wilsons that.
You have your Jalen Ragers. You have guys that are just nobody.
CJ Henderson. You have all these just flame outs in the first round because they run fast and they jump high, but they're not franchise guys.
So 1 out of 4 in 32, right? That means that is a crapshoot. Now let's go to the second round. The second round, it goes even smaller. The third round, it gets even smaller. The fourth, every round, it gets smaller and smaller. So again, everybody loves the idea of first-round picks until first-round picks turn out to be Jalen Reagor. Everybody loves second-round picks until they turn out to be, or like third-round picks until they turn out to be like Jalen Hurd or like Joe Williams. Like that's
someone invoked Hendricks invoked Solomon Thomas. So
all right. What is Solly in New York? Solly's right here in the building just catching strays. He even leave him alone, Hendricks. He didn't do nothing.
I love Solly. It wasn't his fault. He didn't draft himself.
Not his fault. He
didn't play himself on the edge. Like he didn't do that. That wasn't
leave that man alone. He's sitting there in the Jets building right now. They're trying to figure out what the hell they're gonna do, man. They might make the playoffs. Where's that Jets fan that always was in here talking shit, man? I would love to see him. It's funny that he's gone. After I told him that his team was not going anywhere, and after 4 weeks, no, this dude, yeah, it's all victory lap time now. Yeah,
we're pulling it's that time of the year where you start pulling receipts, baby. It's tax season, you know the vibes. NorCal Dan says Aiyuk played at Sierra College where I played baseball. Glad seeing him getting the ball and show what he can do. Yeah, I got my first collegiate start at Sierra College, so I know that place well.
You and Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, we got some ties. Let's see. T Zulu says, do you see a problem with keeping Bosa and Aiyuk next season? Because I think we can both agree Nick Bosa is going to be the highest paid defensive player in the history of football. That man is going to get quarterback money.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be a problem for Aiyuk?
No, I don't think so. $500 billion for Nick Bosa, no problems. But no, you have to remember, guys, the cap is going up. You can always move that money around. The 49ers will insulate this roster with, other players on cheap deals. And remember this, your quarterback room next year, for all intents and purposes, is going to be Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. That is the cheapest quarterback room with that surrounding amount of talent. You're going to be able to do a whole bunch of things. There you go. So, yes, the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, I think the crux of the argument to move on from him largely had to do with injury history and money, right? and you have the rookie quarterback. The cheat code in the NFL is to have an elite roster with a rookie quarterback who can help you win games, because then you can continue to bring in talent. But with the way that the 49ers are able to find reclamation projects on the defensive line and get them to play well. I mean, Jordan Willis was fucking killing it last week as well, too, man. Like,
they got Omenihu for a 5th round draft pick.
Yeah. I mean, like, these are the things that have – everybody looks at the blue chip talent on the 49ers, right? And you look at them and you're like, this is why they're stacked. I would argue all of the other things that they've done behind that has stacked this roster out. So you can miss on draft picks, but when you bring in an undrafted free agent like Emmanuel Mosley and get what you've gotten out of him, when you get valuable reps from Daniel Brunskill, when you get somebody like Brendel to be a starting center and play as well as he does, and you find guys who can contribute, not just guys who are just going to be on the team, guys who can contribute. To Sean Gibson, he you know, tailing off a little bit right now, but they've gotten a ton from him. You know, so again, it's more about building the roster the way that they have, and they have a clear plan. I don't really see a problem with this at all. And the way they can move money around, the way that guys are they'll probably lose some players. I don't really necessitate them to like lose impact players. Like Dre Greenlaw's here for the fucking cheap. For the cheap, dude. Like the cheap. Like John Lynch was like, no. I see it coming. Let's get this done. Like 2 years, what is it? 2 years, 20-something million. It's a steal. So yeah, they'll have enough money for both of them.
And this is my rule. I learned my lesson. I think it was heading into the 2021 offseason. The San Francisco 49ers were sitting around $15 million in cap. They had to pay Trent Williams and a couple other players. They made Trent Williams the highest paid left tackle in the NFL. They signed Alex Mack, and they also brought in some other players. And at the end of it, they had more cap space. So Parag Marate, say what you want about like the way he wheels and deals, but he knows how to keep the 49ers on the up and up. He'll figure it out. So the original question was, are we worried about Nick Bosa getting paid and Brandon Aiyuk getting paid? I don't believe so. If there's a will, there's a way. They'll figure it out if they want it to happen. So that's the biggest takeaway. Like whenever I try to dip my foot into the cap, conversation, I'm just reminded that my logic based on the information we have is always going to be trumped because of the 40 million loopholes that they know how to pull that will free up cap here, free up cap there. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we signed Trent Williams to the highest paid left tackle contract in history and we have more cap space. And I'm like, yeah, I'll stick to football. I'm not going to dabble in the spreadsheets or none of that stuff. That's not me.
I have a hard enough time with X's and O's and trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the field. Like that cap stuff, man. I suck at math, and I am not. Like, there's so many things where it's like you restructure the deal, you extend it for a year, and now all of a sudden the money moves down the line. You have to remember
and there's like natural outs in the middle of it, and they can flip. Like and
the cap's going to increase year after year. So what you can pay somebody this year with this cap increase, you can make bigger with the next cap increase. So they're going to find a way to get it done. It's all about, like you said, will, there's a way, all that stuff, as long as there can be a meeting in the middle. But there's still going to be ways to navigate the contracts, especially with the exploding cap, because the NFL is the biggest product in America.
It literally is. Like there's nothing bigger. The NFL is the absolute king right now. Like when you talk about in a world of content creation, like the NFL, there's no one beating it.
No.
The music in it, like nothing.
No.
Like, okay, the World Cup, that was a big event. But
that's a global event. And I think USA is catching on.
It's once every 4 years, right?
And USA is catching on now. I think the US is catching on. They're still playing catch up. The NFL is still king in America. Maybe NASCAR. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about NASCAR.
Well, I don't know, man. The NFL is doing a really good job of broadening the fan base overseas. I mean, remember Mexico game against Arizona? Like,
for sure.
We got Niner fans everywhere. We know that for sure. I bet someone will drop into the chat and say, like, hey, I'm watching from England right now. Like, there's fans all over the place, and we get what it is. NFL is king, and the 49ers are going to be able to figure out how to make this work. I do think this is what the quarterback room is going to look like, and it might be a great believe it or not, in this climate, Jason, we've went 45 minutes in without talking about the quarterback.
Economy?
In this freaking economy, we've barely invoked the name Brock Purdy one time. So it feels like a really natural transition because Brock Purdy is the talk of the town, not only in 49ers land, But he's got, and again, I talk about this all the time because I think there's a clear distinction between media analysts and football guys turned media analysts. You know what I mean? When you got your Baldies, you got your Michael Urbans, you got guys who've actually played the game at a high level, and they
Oh,
give
I'm
their
glad you said
thoughts
high level
and their and their
because
opinions.
I was gonna mention somebody and I wouldn't say that he played at a high level, but keep going. I'm sorry.
But those are the guys that I like to listen to. The Greg Cosells, people like that. And not that I don't like to listen to other people, but I take their opinions a little bit further than others. I mean, besides their opinion, we've had 3 starts now, 4 games, not including the Chiefs game. What is your opinion of Brock Purdy now that I believe we have enough sample size, but what is your take?
Hard to not be impressed by, like, again, the adversity that he just went through in this game, right? I feel like the Seattle game went much smoother, and that was in a hostile environment. This was at home against a ratcheted up defense. Nothing seems to phase the kid. And it seems like Kyle is very confident in him. And you listen to Kyle speak about him, where he talks about, I thought he played very well. I thought there was some tight moments. I thought he let it rip when he was supposed to. Let it rip when he's supposed to. When you hear that, there you go. There you go. Pal, let's take a shot of vodka. Like that's the thing is when you listen to Kyle speak, Kyle isn't exactly going out of his way to always praise his quarterback, right? Like he'll say the bare minimum, but there's something like in this bounce in his step right now with what he's seeing with Purdy. And I think you and I have said it. Everybody talks about, well, there's more play calling for deep shots. The deep shots were there. Just Jimmy wasn't taking them. Purdy's taking them, and he's hitting them. I think he's like 57.1% of his downfield throws. I mean, there's that stat out there that there's only 4 people that have thrown touchdowns with 30-plus air yards under it. It's C.J. Beathard, Trey Lance, Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy. I mean, you're seeing a guy who is poised, understands things, sees it very well pre-snap, never gets rattled. I mean, what else can we say about this kid? Now, if you want to turn this argument to later on, offseason, I mean, we're going to have a whole offseason to duke this shit out.
Yeah.
But I want to say
we don't need to turn to the offseason yet. Let's stick we got playoffs in mind. Let's stick with this season.
Right now, what needs to happen in these next 2 games is you've got to get this team healthy, but you've got to get this kid more reps. You have to continue to build up the rapport with everybody else. Deebo Samuel returns. Let's see him get on the field with Deebo. Let's see that part of the game because it only unlocks a little bit more. Having another playmaker is not a bad thing at all. You see George Kittle coming alive. It's just this offense is starting to hit its stride in a way that it hasn't all season. It's no disrespect to the other 2 quarterbacks. It's just what the eyes are telling me. And the numbers are starting to bear it out as well. Sure, they could pick up their red zone offense a little bit. But when you're scoring from 40 yards out, who cares about the red zone at that point, right? Like, I understand, like, in the red zone, people are like, damn, we stalled out for field goals. Well, damn, what did you want, 54 points? I mean, the 30-something was fine, So
never satisfied, right?
Right. Right now, what you're looking at is you're looking at a kid who doesn't look like a rookie at all. Anything can happen going forward. But he's deserved all of the praise and more, and he absolutely deserves everything that all the flowers he's been getting, man. I can't remember a rookie coming in, not just managing the game, but like letting that thing rip. And that is the thing that I think is the most exciting because there's a lot of people now that are starting to believe that little part of the 49ers offense that we felt was not unlocked yet is starting to get unlocked. And that makes them terrifying if this offense can turn to closer to what the Falcons were. Because remember, everybody thinks that Atlanta threw it. No, they were 28th in pass attempts. They were 4th in passing yards. Also helps that you have Julio Jones. But Matt Ryan was executing that offense and throwing the ball when he needed to. It's not about throwing continued deep shots. It's about being opportunistic with them and connecting. And I think that Brock Purdy is doing an incredible job of almost everything across the board.
And we understand that timing is a huge part of this offense, and he is hitting things on time. And that's one of the things, like at least when I watch Jimmy Garoppolo, you're just like, man, just let it rip. Like, yeah, he has an ability to get that thing out on a line and on a dart, and he's got a quick release. But sometimes you're just like, man, you're just waiting a little too long. But let's see, Luis thank you for the super chat. He says, I can testify in the Mexico City game, the Niners were the home team. No question about it. Vamos, Niner. Dude, Mexico showed out for the 49ers. That was one of the dopest things. Like, just the coverage, like leading up to that week, it was electric. I hope the 49ers play there again. And hopefully next time I can make my way down there because just covering it was hella fun.
So, real quick to the Mexico thing, like the time I went to Mexico, I got this. And this was a long time ago. Like football's been big there. It has. It's always been big there. And then it's just funny that I could have went to one of those shops and they had the ponchos and this. Football's big down there. So they've been waiting for that game for a while.
Dude, it was so dope. And I really hope that they do that again because the atmosphere was absolutely electric. You could feel it through the TV. I wanted to talk about this other comment, not because I want to talk about the man's anatomy, but because 49ers players keep talking about it. Where did it go? There we go.
The man's anatomy. That's why I'm like, hey, yo, like, where are we going?
Yeah, I know. I saw you like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Pause, bro. So the reason why I'm bringing this comment up is because Ray McCloud, right? Ray McCloud had the touchdown run, stepping in for Debo. Should have had 2 touchdowns. Kittle stole 1.
Getting greedy.
Yeah, love it. Ray went on to KNBR, I think after the game. I just came across the interview. I think it was last night. Ray called Brock Purdy a big alpha. I mean, I know you and I, Jason, because we cover the 49ers, we are interested in outside takes, especially when they come from players on the team about the quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and now Brock Purdy. So we listen to these guys when they talk about him. These guys keep referencing his cojones, like literally. Like Kyle Shanahan, like I think Kyle Juszczyk talked about it. Now Ray McCloud's talking about it. He literally said this guy's got cojones. He commands the huddle. He basically he said Brock Purdy makes you want to run through a wall. And it's not this rah swag. It's the quiet swag. Like it's that swag that like you either have or you don't have. You don't try to be that. It's just who you are and it exudes out of you. That's what I keep hearing from these players when they talk about Brock Purdy. And they just talk about this energy that he has. And Ray McCloud also played with Josh Allen with the Bills and Ben Roethlisberger with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it was Greg Papa asked him, like, are there any correlations here? And he's like, dude, Ray was like, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, he has a very similar energy to Josh Allen and Big Ben. And I've heard this enough times that I do think Brock Purdy's the real deal. We're seeing it on tape, right? But when I always talk about the quarterback position, I talk about those intangible aspects, the leadership qualities, the ability to manage the game and manage big personalities, Debo, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, CMC, for Mr. Irrelevant to step into this huddle and make those guys want to run through a brick wall. That to me is like, I couldn't have heard a more positive, like, I just talking about Brock that way. Like, I'm just like, dude, they ride for this dude. Like they really believe in Brock Purdy.
That's half the battle. It really is. And football is such an emotional sport, and it's about camaraderie, and it's about riding for your quarterback. And for him to have all of these things, some guys don't get this until later on in the league where they have this, they command the huddle. But for him to have this stepping in right away, and you're right, literally nobody can stop talking about this. When you couple that with the play, you start to get the feeling that you're watching something from the beginning, like build up to something different. And again, we'll get to that in the offseason. We'll get to whatever it is, right? Like I know all the cliches about if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. I don't think that's true at all. I think actually in this instance, it's great to have both of these guys that you have, and we'll talk about all that all off season, but it's so
real
much.
Quick, Brock Purdy with Trey Lance lined up as a running back to the right of him. Hands off the hands.
All right, well, that's state of the franchise. I'm out of here. All right.
Go on. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. You're good. I think that that's something that you heard them say about Jimmy Garoppolo and how much those guys love about Jimmy, right? The way he called the bass in his voice when he calls plays, right? Like, you may think that doesn't mean anything, but those guys have to put their body on the line. They have to ride for you. They have to do everything that they can to help this team win. They're not going to do that for somebody that they don't trust, somebody who's a bit skittish, somebody who they don't believe in. That is half the battle. Mm-hmm. And right now, that's all you're hearing. And again, that's what you hear Kyle Shanahan saying. That's the stuff that is like, even when Nick Mullins, and we got to stop comparing him to Nick Mullins. That's my fault. He's not Nick Mullins. That ain't Nick Mullins. That is not Nick Mullins, man. I'm sorry. We're done with that.
Yeah.
But all you ever heard about Nick was like, good processor of the game, has a good head on his shoulders, smart. Like, the guys liked him, but not to this degree.
It's kind of like how they talk about Trey Lance.
No, man. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Hey, I'm observant. That's it. I'm just an observant human being. That's all I am.
Don't do that.
Don't mind me. Don't mind me. I'm just observant.
Good God, this offseason is going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be wild, dude.
But either way, right now, I'm reclusing myself from that argument because as of right now, Brock Purdy. See, Rome, get his ass, man. You see him stirring the pot? So for right now, it's got to just be about Brock at this point. Everything has to be with him gaining his reps. I mean, you can't rock the boat at this point. He hasn't given you any reason to feel like there's something coming that's going to be bad, anything like that. Right now, everything's moving in the right direction. His teammates are saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. He's playing the right way. It's an interesting dynamic that we can go back later on and look at. But as of right now, no, as of right now,
even though I keep somehow getting pulled into it, and I'm trying to stop myself.
And look, and it wasn't me this time, guys. It wasn't me. It was him.
It wasn't me.
But
it was the big ginger. That was my fault.
But you have to be impressed by all of these things. You have to be impressed by all these things.
Yeah. So are you feeling confident? Like, I was talking about this on the stream. I think it was yesterday. We watched the offensive tape. And so we just kind of worked through all the plays. And I'm like at the end of it, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever felt more confident. And it's crazy to like feel that way. Like, because we watched all the quarterbacks and it's just like the offense looks like what we've wanted it to look like. It's crazy. I don't know, man.
Your best example was, I believe it was Justin Herbert who made like a sidearm throw.
Yes. Right.
Like, and it's on social media. And Jordan Elliott says, I beg to differ. Brock Purdy accomplished that feat no more than an hour ago. But it's true though. It is true though. Like, there was literally that play where I believe it's Jonathan Allen running free at him, and he has the wherewithal to throw that thing to the side and get it to. And it was a play
action pitch with the defender coming at his back, and then he turns
and
around.
He starts to move. He starts to move, and he's coming right at him, and he puts it in like that. Like, no one showed that. But that's the kind of smarts that he has right now after 3 starts. So I know we make jokes. That was a hilarious Happy Gilmore reference. That whole thread was perfect.
That thread was amazing.
It was gold. But at the same time, that's the type of smarts that the young man has. That's how the poise he's been playing with. Nothing seems to rattle him. Everything he feels, he's in control. So when you ask me if I have more confidence, I do. I mean, I watched this guy go into a hostile environment on Thursday, look like a vet, start the game 10 for 10, literally execute the fake screen over the middle of the Kittle. Him throwing the ball down the field, never feels like he's putting the ball in harm's way. Sure, there was an interception. I would probably put that more on Jennings than I would him. But he shook that off and he kept going. So, yes, I mean, you have to have confidence in this kid, A, based on what you've been seeing, and B, based on the fact that he's going to be starting and everybody else is rallying around him. So it's time to table those arguments. It's time to not worry about those arguments now, because if you really want this kid to succeed, not that I'm saying that he's like reading what we're saying on Twitter or anything like that, it should be all full support from everybody at this point, based on what you've seen and based on what you want this kid to help your team accomplish.
I mean, I'll say this. I haven't seen the fan base rally around a quarterback since Jimmy Garoppolo came in and won 5 straight. I mean, it's at that same type of fever pitch, like that kind of like, oh my gosh, we have a competent quarterback. Like, and not that any of the guys before them aren't, or whatever. It's just like we haven't lost. We're continuing to see the offense feel like it's kind of growing a little bit. Again, the deep shot to Kittle was a 45-yard bomb. It was really nice, and it was a good throw. And offensive line gave him protection, stepped into the throw, and he just throws catchable. Like I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pleased with where the San Francisco 49ers stand right now, and I don't think it's all on Brock, which is part of the beauty of it. Is within Kyle's scheme, you have these yak monsters everywhere. As a quarterback, you just have to manage and get the ball exactly,
point guard,
distribute, and he's good at that. It's not like he's got to Josh Allen these things or Mahomes these things. He has some of those traits to him, a little sneaky, but if he just plays within the structure of the offense, he's proving to be successful. And I think what's getting me excited is when he plays outside the structure of the offense, you're starting to see him create and do that. Like that one play where he spun out and he whatever he did, like stutter stepped the defensive back who's blitzing off the edge, did the little twirl and just threw it out of bounds just to avoid a sack. But it's like the kid shows you he has
spectacular incompletion.
He has athletic ability, like he has awareness. It's pretty special. So I'm looking forward to see what they do heading into this playoff game. We're getting up against it, but do you have any real concerns with these Raiders coming up? Are you like, we've talked about trap games many times on this channel, and I think you would quantify a trap game as a team that's not supposed to win, like at all. Like I think I had asked this about Washington, and we're like, Washington's
still a playoff team,
low-key playoff team. So, but this team is officially not a playoff team, and they just benched their quarterback. Is this a trap game on the road, January 1st in Vegas? And you think there's a shot? Is there a jolt of energy the Raiders get from a new quarterback?
Nah, it's probably from that nut job Karen, Raiders fan in the stands harassing people or whatever like that. Oh man, couldn't be me, man. Thank God the gods knew who to put next to her, man. Because credit to that young man. He was able to. I would have went straight for the dude and just knocked his ass out and just been like, all right, now take me to jail. Anyway, yeah, it's a chance that you could see somebody come in and the team rallies around that, but this team has too much to play for. They're too well coached, too talented. They're playing too well. The Raiders are they're a mess, man, as they usually are. Yeah, I mean, you usually don't say, hey, this team's gonna blow this team out. I would not be shocked if the 49ers absolutely demolish this team, and that would be great because by halftime they can take people out. That feels really, really good. So yeah, look, it's fine to be confident in your team. They're playing too well right now. They're too well coached. They're too much rolling. I have a question for you, Brad, and I see we have some super chats real quick. All right.
Yes.
And please, guys, listen to the question. Do not lose your mind. Brad, would you like for the 49ers to get a loss out of the way in the regular season before the postseason? Because they win two more. Ahead. They win two more, and that's 10, right?
Yep.
And then you've got to win wild card, divisional, championship, Super Bowl. They have to win 14 straight games to get it done. I'm just asking a question. That's all. Just asking a question.
It's a good question. It's been posed to me on in my comment section as well on Instagram, and I attacked it this way. I don't believe this is hype. This team, I don't think what they're doing, I don't think they're empty wins. I think they're winning fair and square. They are executing above others, and they're playing at a really high level. I don't want to see this team fall into that trap and lose just to lose. I want to see them go out and put their
All right.
best foot forward.
All right. I'm not saying the
and
49ers would go and
continue.
tank it. I'm not saying that
Right.
they would go and tank
I don't
it.
think that I agree. I don't think
So,
that's what
all
you're
right.
saying
So
either.
let me pose this way. Week 17, it looks like week 18 against the Cardinals, it looks like it's over, right? Like they can't get into the second seed.
Right.
Do you feel better with them rolling the Cardinals with their backups? Or is it just like if their backups lose to the Cardinals, it's like whatever at that point? It doesn't really affect anything. And then you can just get right back on the horse and just keep going because it wasn't your starters that lost.
I definitely think it's a whatever in that scenario. Like if they lose to the Cardinals, it's a whatever. But I also do think that, kind of like to your point, like they're not going to just roll over and die just because.
No.
And I think momentum is real. And I think the confidence that they can continue to build by just winning out and continuing to prove not only to the rest of the league, but to themselves that, listen, we got a quarterback. We've got an O-line, we got skill positions, we got a defense that is capable of going far. I don't see why not.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at Justin's question. He's like, "No, Jason, I already have tickets to that Cardinals game."
No, he wants the backups in so he can rock the Jordan Mason jersey and just watch
Mason Cooks.
A full
27
day of
carries,
Jordan Mason.
27 carries, 137 yards, and 3 tugs right in front of him. No, it's just it's just a hypothetical, right? Because
no, of course,
it's the parity of the league. 14 games in a row to win to get it done. That's some like 30 for 30 shit. Like print up.
But the season is 30 for 30, right? Three quarterbacks,
right.
Mr. Irrelevant,
Right.
Cinderella. I don't believe this season is just like a facade. This feels real, right?
Just a question, guys. I don't want you to kill me and say Jason wants them to lose. It was a question. It's just a question.
You hear that? Put it on Twitter. Jason Aponte wants the 49ers
Yo,
to
I
lose.
swear to God, anybody who mentions me and says that I want them to lose, I am blocking you. I am going to block you. It could be my mom, and you're getting blocked.
No, I understand the question. I think it's a valid conversation to have because it's been posed to me like, oh, we don't want I've had fans say we don't want them to win out because we want them to lose. We want them to get it out of their system. And I can rationalize that thought process, but that's not where my mind would be if I was a person inside that locker room. If my mind was like focused on winning a championship, they're already in playoff mode, right? They are already in like we can't, because you remember like last year, they were kind of in that mode and they got caught sleepwalking against the Tennessee Titans, and that almost ruined them. Like if New Orleans won that game, the 49ers didn't make the playoffs. Like if New Orleans won down the stretch, 49ers wouldn't have made the playoffs. So I'm just more of the mindset. I'd rather keep the good energy of winning out.
Guys, I'm going to explain one more time.
Are they cooking you in the chat?
I am not talking about the 49ers throwing a game. Please understand the question that I asked before you guys get so emotional that you're blind with rage and foaming from the mouth.
Did you guys hear what Jason said?
I never once said the 49ers should kick a game just to get into the playoffs and not have the winning streak. You are misunderstanding the question. This is why I stopped short of asking the question, because I knew this was going to happen. I am saying, do you understand how hard it is to win 14 games? That is hard. It's really hard. And if the backups lose in week 18 to the Cardinals, it doesn't matter because it wasn't Brock Purdy. And yet you can go right back to your winning streak without it being – you know what, man? Forget it, man. Just kick me out, man. Just get me out of here, bro. My God, man. I try to be rational. Man. I'm not yelling. I have not been aggressive at all. And
no, you're 100% rational. You're providing a perspective that has definitely been ushered.
So Josh Johnson starts, and you guys are all like, "Oh man, we gotta get this win. It's Josh Johnson, man. We gotta get this win." What?
Oh my God, so good. Let's get into the super chats, man. The chat's on fire right now. Let's walk through them.
I need a recovery beer like Luca.
Do you think Bosa got Taylor Heineke benched?
No. You know what's funny? He didn't even really look terrible. Like, he didn't
No,
look
I don't think so
terrible.
either.
Like, that's what's funny about it. It's like I've seen I saw Tua play worse than him. Like, I think Tua was playing worse than him. Like, I thought Heineke was fine. He was just up against it. I don't think he got him benched. I do think Ron Rivera is feeling it and was kind of waiting for a reason to go back to Carson. And now you've seen it, right? He said he's just going to run with Carson the rest of the way. So no, I don't think it's that at all. I don't even think Heineke played that bad. If they wanted to bench him, they could have benched him many other weeks before this game. I thought he was fine.
Yeah, I feel like they were kind of riding the hot hand kind of a situation, and the game was out of reach. So they put in Carson, wanted to get an idea of Carson. I also think they didn't really play Carson because I think there was some stipulations in the contract. If he played X amount of games, it would have kicked in this crazy contract guarantee. I think that might have been in play as well. You know, they just kind of rode the hot hand. I think it was more internally why they went from Heineke to Wentz than, you know, externally with the 49ers. Yeah. Jan says, y'all notice what Jimmy fans say about Trey? Trey fans are saying about, I'll say this. I'll start this one. I literally have blocked out anyone who is still talking about Trey or still talking about Jimmy because they're either living in the past or they're living in the future. And I am having too much damn fun living in the now. Like we keep talking about, we'll have those conversations, but I personally don't care, to be honest with you.
I still, like now Jason wants to lose. Like, God, man, this is why I don't bring up hypothetical questions, like ever. I fried on my own channel. Unbelievable. All right. To Jan's question. Yeah, I do think this, Jan. I do think this, Jan. God. A lot of people right now have staked their claim to what they want. And with any situation, especially the 49ers quarterback situation, everything should remain fluid. Everything should remain fluid. Always. You should never, and this was, again, my biggest mistake in the offseason was, you got to get this guy out of here. Jimmy's out. Like, let's go, let's roll. Then look, Jimmy's back. You know, all these things happen. I think that a lot of people, including myself at times, have a hard time getting away from what it is they believe and start to get into what they want to be true. Like, you can't lose your job off of injury. Well, that's bullshit. Drew Bledsoe lost his job and got shipped right out right away. There was a guy that came in.
Alex Smith on Kaepernick.
Alex Smith lost his job because there's so much momentum involved in football. There's so much cohesion that's involved in football that if something is rolling, you cannot sacrifice the betterment of the offense of the team, whatever it is, just because you are stuck in a cliche of you can't lose your job based on injury. I think that, again, this conversation should be tabled. So much of what is going to happen in training camp is going to happen based on how this season ends. Yeah. If things end the way that we want them to, then you know who has the leg up in training camp.
Right.
Both guys should get a competition, I believe, but you have to remain fluid based on how we have so much more time left. We have so much more time left to figure out what is what. I see the Jimmy era is over. You know what? Looks like it. You know what I will never say? Anything near that. You know why? Because the 49ers do whatever the hell they want. If Jimmy Garoppolo walked in that door at training camp, it would not shock me. You know why? Here's your best bet if you're trying to figure out what the 49ers are going to do at quarterback. Expect the unexpected. Please do not try to put yourself in a corner where things look crazy because there's no way Jimmy Garoppolo can come back. How could you come back to a situation like that? Walks right in that door. And thank God for that because that really helped for a little while. And then, Brock Purdy takes over. So for this discussion, there's a lot of people that are spitting venom to each side. And that's just the 49ers quarterback competition and talk every single day of the week, no matter what the year is. But this one feels particularly different because so many people want Trey to succeed, as you should. You should want your team, your quarterback to succeed. But again, people are stuck with what they believed in their priors and what they want to be true as opposed to just being fluid. Just be fluid at this point. Like, you have to be water with the situation. There's still so much football left to be played, and that'll help determine at least a little bit where both guys should be at training camp.
Exactly. And there's a long way to go. I would imagine Jimmy Garoppolo signs elsewhere. I think he played good enough this year
I would imagine that
to
as
get
well, Brad.
Hey man, I got the tinfoil hat right here. I have retired it. It's I'm putting it in the safe. It's not coming out. The tinfoil hat goes away because every time I think the 49ers are blowing smoke about the quarterback position, I've been wrong every time. So you said it perfectly. Be water, be fluid. This quarterback situation, especially now with Brock Purdy in the mix, we have no freaking clue what's going to happen. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you have examples of the 49ers drafting Trey Sermon in the third round, going up and getting him with picks and cutting him for an undrafted free agent running back. Like, they have proven that the better player is going to play, and we have until the off season when Trey is healthy and Purdy is healthy to determine who that guy is. If we're going to argue about it right now, it kind of feels a bit like a fool's errand because you're arguing hypotheticals at this point. Trey's
Well,
not playing this year.
George has got it. Jimmy's a Jet. There we go. Done. All right. So now we don't got to talk about it anymore.
Done. Okay, perfect. On to the next question. That way to wrap that one up.
End of
Let's see.
story. I love that.
What is the best scenario from T Sulu to get to the Super Bowl as far as the other teams go?
Getting to that 2 seed. I saw somebody in the comments ask about 2 seed, 3 seed. It's obviously you want the 2 seed. Jalen Hurts may miss the rest of the regular season, then get a bye week. It's good for his health. But what if the Philadelphia Eagles come out and they stumbled and they have a half or two where they're trying to find their rhythm and they haven't played? We've seen many teams that have been world beaters that have pulled up and have stumbled and Goliaths go down all the time. It's a one and done situation. So the best scenario is always to have the second seed. And I'll lay it out for you this way. The scenario that, in a perfect world, which football is not played in a perfect world, so don't, take this as a guarantee, but the 49ers get the second seed. That would mean that every playoff game they would have would be at home before they travel to Philly for an NFC championship game because they'd be on opposite sides of the bracket. But if the Philadelphia Eagles falter, now the 49ers have home field advantage. And they would be on the West Coast for in excess of 11 weeks. They still haven't left the West Coast, and it would just be a short bus ride over to Glendale. Now you're not worried about Javon Kinlaw traveling. Now you're not worried about injuries, anything like that. Everybody can stay home. Everybody can go to the facility, go home, get all their work done, and then you can move right back over. That's perfect world stuff right there. The second best scenario is second seed, you go to Philly to go to Glendale. That's one trip to the East Coast. So the 49ers will stop in Youngstown. They'll practice at the super, secretive facility.
The Greenbrier.
Right. And then they'll head right over to Philly, and then they'll do battle, and then they'll fly back to see, and they'll get a week too for Glendale. But there is a scenario where if things fall right, the 49ers don't have to leave the West Coast again. And who doesn't want to do that? Like I go there for like maybe a few days. I don't ever want to come back. Like, so imagine living there. Like, so that's your number one best scenario. That's perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world, but number two is always the seed that you should be going for.
Perfectly said. I have nothing to add. Jason literally covered it better than I even have thought about it. That's a great point. If they can stay on the West Coast and really not have to travel back, and of course home field advantage. I was in Levi Stadium in 2019 for the NFC Championship game against the Packers. It was the best environment I've ever been in. That's including Warriors playoff games at Oracle Arena. It was the best environment I've ever witnessed. And if this team right now gets into the playoffs and they go deep, 49er fans are going to show up and show out.
Oh, yeah.
It's already being predicted that they're going to take over this Raider stadium with the highest priced tickets in the freaking country. 49ers are passionate and they're loaded. So it's a great combo. You get them on the West Coast the whole way, they're going to show up, and that home field advantage is going to be absolutely real. That's a great point. Didn't even think about it like that. This was from a while ago, I'm assuming. Greatness 54 said there's no such thing as a good loss. On to the next super chat. Thank you.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm getting cooked.
They're having fun with you. Let's see. Dean says, "Hell nah, I don't even want to lose a coin."
Dean, I
It's just
swear to
the same
God,
one.
don't pull up on me. Don't pull up on me on no tailgates no more. You and I, there's gonna be some furniture moving. I'm not playing with you, Dean.
Oh my God, this is. Oh, you dropped another one. Jason is a double agent. LOL, love you, fam.
It's called hedging your bets. This is how you know what I've noticed in the YouTube game? This is how you're right. You talk out of both sides of your mouth. You say something that sounds definitive, and then you say something else. So then when somebody calls you out,
play devil's advocate off of it.
and then when somebody calls you out and says you didn't say that, well, I said that right here. That's the only way to be right about everything is to hedge your bets.
Scrub forward 2 more minutes, and you'll hear me say exactly that point.
These
so
YouTubers
I'll
out
clip
of
it. I'll
control.
put it on the timeline. I'm right. You're wrong.
The hedging of the bets by the YouTubers and everything is great. Like, I want Lance to play, but I've always liked Purdy. What about like, dude? It's okay. Like, I'm telling you not to take a stance, but don't play the fence, bro. At this point, like, if you want to be out there, fine. Like, you know the consequences. But if Purdy succeeds, I've always liked Purdy. I've always liked Purdy, and I said it 2 years ago. I've been said it. Nobody's gonna. I think
one of the things that I'm proud of with what we do here is, we aren't always right, and if we're not right, like, we're not right, and we're not going to be just a freaking like door that like won't open to new ideas because we maybe misjudge something. Like, it happens. All right. Like, so I'm pretty happy with where we're at. And I think moving forward, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be in a really good spot moving forward. And this year, next year, whatever it may be. But right now, I'm living in the moment. Who got you?
Adrian Garcia. Jason's actually an undercover Eagles fan and plotting for the 49ers to lose their mojo right now. Can't make this up. I am getting absolutely fried right now.
Hey, man, this is how inside jokes are made. We're going to remember this for a long time. The double agent of Ponte coming through.
What an episode. It's always, Wednesdays are always the livest, bro. Always. It's so good.
Bro, of course they are. And it's so lit because of you guys in the chat, man. You guys make this hella fun. Jason, what do you got cooking, man? I seen you working out here. What do you got in the works for 49er Faithful out here?
Yeah, just make sure you guys are on Niners Nation. I've been writing more than ever. You're looking at almost like 5 to almost 10 articles per week over there.
And that's not easy. That is not easy at all.
Hey, it's easy when you're covering a team that wins, man. It's much easier to wake up and get the transcript and just say nice positive things about the team because everything's rolling. But it's if the 49ers were having a 2020 season, I would wake up like I would just like bags under my eyes, like having to write 4 articles about Nick Mullins throwing 3 interceptions.
Hey, there was a moment in time earlier this year where I was waking up like, damn, I got to talk about the 49ers today.
Oh, man,
like,
it was scary.
After that Broncos game,
that Broncos game, I was just like, I don't want to do this week. I was like, I don't want to do this.
I was contemplating my life choices. I'm like, did I really choose this for my life?
Yeah, I would be like, man, so what team am I going to cover now after they get rid of me? Like,
oh, that's right. Oh my God, that was a great time.
But yeah, no. So Niners Nation, that's where you guys can find my work. Jordan, Andrew Pasquini, we all write over there too with KP and Akash and those guys. Niners Nation Podcast Network, Bully Ball with Steph and I. And, Sprint Right Option Podcast with my guy, Andrew Pasquini. We do that Mondays and Fridays. And you guys can like both videos on our channel, subscribe to both videos on our channels, and hit that notification bell. A lot of content. Wednesdays is always a vibe with you guys. State of the Franchises. It's one of my favorite shows of the week.
Oh, it's a phenomenal show.
Are there Raiders content creators? Like, do we know them?
I don't think they exist. I really don't.
Well, I wasn't trying to hop on to the Bills, but they're at the top of my list. It's like if Deebo Samuel is requesting a trade and everybody's like, where would it go? Like, I'm not saying I would go to the Bills, but everything's good over here right now. The Bills have had way more adversity this year in terms of like the way that they've been playing the last few weeks than the Niners have. Everybody wanted Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey went like 4 weeks without second half points. If that was Kyle Shanahan, ooh, baby, you'd be cooking. So funny how things change, right?
Funny. We got another super chat down to the wire. Hey, if you got a super chat, get them in. We're about to get out of here. It's the only way to keep us on longer. We lost the last game of the year in 1988 to the Rams on purpose. We wanted the Rams in the playoffs, and we wanted New York Giants eliminated. Facts.
I wasn't saying
is that
I wasn't
true?
saying I don't remember, but I just want to clarify one more time. I didn't want them to if you lose a game on purpose, that is a mentality that the 49ers don't have. And that's not part of their culture. That's not part of the coaching or anything like that.
Jason does not want the 49ers to lose, everybody.
Look, if the 49ers lose somehow and they won't, I've got to go back to regular life. Like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm having a lot of fun this year. This year's been very fun. I don't want to do that. Jason's never coming back from this. I'm tired of like trying to be rational. Y'all like it better when I yell and get all red in the face and start like, you like it better than than me like even trying to just put something out there. So yeah,
they want spicy Apate. Oh,
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna block you on Twitter, bro. I promise.
Shots fired. Oh, this is a fun one, Jason. I'm having a blast with this, and I know the people are going to keep reminding of this one. We got another one. Gammon says, remain objective and rank these backup quarterbacks in order. Mm-hmm. Gardner Minshew, Mike White, Cooper Rush, Brock Purdy. I'll let you go first.
Gammon, before I do that, check your email. On the Sprint Right option, you talked about would we donate to charity. Andrew and I both matched donations for St. Jude's, and I sent you a screenshot of it so you could take a look at that. So I just wanted to make sure we got that. Just make sure you check your email because I sent you a screenshot.
Man of the people, stepping up.
Yeah, it's just something that, Gammon was asking, like, do you guys donate to charity? And I think it's something that we should do more and more. Andrew and I, we both matched the donations. So we went. It's weird when Jason isn't yelling. I know, Travis. I know, right? Like, even I'm like, you know what, man? I feel level-headed and everything. Gammon, shout out to you. Shout out to Mod Squad in here. But, what was the question again? Okay, so it's remain objective, rank these backup quarterbacks in order. Minshew, White, Rush, Purdy. Well, Rush is on the bottom. Rush is on the bottom.
I agree with that.
So he's fourth.
Yep.
Mike White is third.
I agree with that.
Brock Purdy's first. That's it. I'm not letting you cook me anymore. Brock Purdy's first and Minshew second. That's it. I don't care. I don't care if you wanted me to be objective.
Man who knows his audience.
No, but Gammon, that was the setup. You wanted me to get cooked further. If I would have said Purdy second, everybody would have lost it and said, "Oh my God, how is he not better than Minshew?" No, he's better than Minshew. He is second. So second is Gardner Minshew. One is Brock Purdy. There. You almost got me too. You almost got me.
That's hilarious. I agree with you 100%, and I do like Gardner Minshew a lot. I like Gardner Minshew coming out. He's a good quarterback, but you
better say that.
This is not objective. Brock Purdy is a tier above all these other backup quarterbacks.
He might be a starter.
He's proven he's a starter. Gardner Minshew, I would give maybe an opportunity to start. I think Gardner Minshew's good. I didn't even see the game the game he had last week.
He was fine.
I just remember really liking Gardner throughout the draft process. Again, moxie, the intangibles. Gardner's got it. He might not be the most athletically gifted quarterback, but he has those traits that you're trying to figure out that are hard to measure against others. So for me, Brock, Gardner, Mike, Cooper. Sorry, my fellow ginger brother, but you are fourth, and it's a long fourth away.
Shout out to Jim Everett. These chats are not as lit without you. There's a lot of people that don't get the bit with him. Like the trolling bit. Yeah, like there's like. It's a bit, right? Like, and I love it. Yeah, exactly. Like Jim's a troll. Like he's in here antagonizing and wanting you to like yell at him and call him delusional and all that stuff. And it's like he's doing a masterful job of it. That is a talent within itself.
Being a troll.
Yeah, to say things to say things that are not necessarily like automatically dismissed. Like he's not saying something like what's the kid's name? Bryce Perkins. He's not saying Bryce Perkins clears Brock Purdy, right? Like he's saying Baker Mayfield, which we can all disagree with right now at this moment. but it still doesn't feel like a super troll like Bryce Perkins clears or John Wolford clears. Like, he's still saying something that can at least
like
argue.
it's an arguable
Yeah,
troll.
You might,
but
be
it gets people riled up.
But it gets everybody going. I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah, there's an art form to trolling. I mean,
troll
culture is a real thing in today's society. And if you can do it well, dude, you can make a name for yourself by being a master troll.
What's the master one? Barry? He's the GOAT. Barry's the GOAT. Barry is the GOAT.
Dude's been deleted from Twitter probably 3,000 times and just comes back every single time.
He'll literally say something that is clearly a troll, and like people will just lose their minds over it. I think it is so funny, man. I think it's hilarious.
My 1-year-old son is crying his eyes out.
My 3-year-old son is puking and crying right now because Aaron Rodgers threw an interception at the end of the game. That's not true at all, bro.
Right. And they just eat it up.
Yeah.
Fun. I do think Brock Purdy had a mullet in college.
Did he?
Needs to bring it back. I think so. I seen a picture where he's got the hair coming out the back, but he's clean up top. So we'll see. But Jason, it's always a pleasure. We've been running long lately, but we've been having a blast. So we appreciate all you guys, as always, for tapping in with us every Wednesday. Make sure you follow Jason on his channel. Again, we do our dual streams. Make sure you pop over to both. Smash that like button. Sub to both.
Don Burr
in the chat.
Don Burr to go. Let's go, my boy.
It keeps getting better.
Let's go, my boy.
So it is that time where we get out of here with the most fire intro, outro on YouTube. Appreciate the squad as always. You guys are the best. We're out of here for now. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.